Warning, the following program contains extreme coarse language and mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is extremely advised. Good evening. It is Thursday. It is Talking Truth Thursday. I'm ADC. Welcome to Talking Truth about, it's not easy being green. Got some great guests. We've got some on the road, got some in their place. They're all going to join us here shortly. Like, subscribe, all that other stuff. If you want to be a part of the conversation, go to the YouTube channel or the stream on Facebook. We can answer those questions directly right here on the stream. And speaking of the stream, we're going to bring in our first guest, Johnny. Johnny, how you doing tonight?
What's up? How's it going?
It's going well. Third guest would be our good friend, the infamous Renee Johnston. Renee, how you doing?
I'm infamous. How'd that happen?
You're in traffic. What's going on here? You're like, this is weird. This is whatever. But we're just here to chat. Zaina is going to join us shortly. Unfortunately, Black Unicorn Rose could not make it due to technology, so we'll reschedule that. But she promised she would join us in the chat with any sort of questions or answers because of having that background of being part of the Green Party administration, because that's the big question there that pops up. You posted it, Renee, that the filing for the candidacy still said MPP on it. However, it was missing a very important detail.
Yes, it was. Really hard to file a candidacy form without the signature of the candidate. So
100%.
Very, very interesting thing to be, out in the world. Also found it interesting that it was mailed from Virginia when Dr. West lives in New York. Also, found it interesting that it was mailed on at the same time that he was supposedly in talks with the Green Party regarding running as a candidate in their primary. So all of these things put together, smells, my spidey senses are tingling to tell me that this is all one more grifty shenanigan.
Now, wait, do you think that it's possible, Renee, that Brana took it upon himself to file that paper on West's behalf? And come on now, that's what I think, because you know as well as I do.
Of course, that's what I think, Johnny, but I don't want to get sued. Listen, here's
okay. Well, I don't care. They can sue me. I don't got nothing. They can sue me. You got more to lose than I do.
The reality of the situation is somebody on Friday went to a FedEx and mailed an unsigned document that listed Dr. West as running for the People's Party.
And the People's Party isn't even listed in the FEC as an official.
Exactly. There's a number of
what's
issues.
The name of it again? The America's People for Democracy or something?
No, it's people for a working democracy. But
correct.
They are 520. They're a 527. They are a 501c4, maybe a 501c3. They filed as. They are not a national party. So I don't know.
Oh, Renee, they're just a five. Hi, guys.
Hi, Zaina has joined us. I threw her in here, so I apologize there. Zaina Day, thank you for joining us, and feel free to continue with the conversation.
Oh, I was just going to tell Renee, they're just a 527. They don't have to register as anything else. And
Okay.
527s are very limited because they're ideas based, right? They can do politics and stuff, but they cannot endorse candidates.
Right.
They have to be a
Right.
PAC to endorse a candidate, meaning that they have to file as a 501c4. And they, as far as I know, I've never seen any paperwork of that.
Yeah. So it's all very fishy. But now
It's all very fishy.
I want to actually talk about, because I think we've all established that MPP is disastrous. West, on the front anyway, has taken a step away. He says, you know, I want to thank our brothers and sisters at MPP for bringing this up and bringing, you know, inviting me to run. And it goes back to all the people that jumped our shit when we first brought this up, and we were right. It was exactly what I said in my thread that day, that it seemed to me like Nick ran out of people that he could bug to run to boast his little grift, and he found a hearing in West, right? And then he told West, we'll take care of everything. We'll do all the campaigning. We'll do everything for you. And we were telling people he doesn't have the infrastructure for that. It's bullshit. And then with that kind of pressure, West got pressure from other people, and eventually he ended up, you know, making the change that he did. Okay.
Well, Johnny, I can tell you, he wanted MPP from a year and a half ago. I mean, he wanted West from a year and a half ago. He was trying to convince me and Paula and the board. He had a 2-hour call with Paula Jean just to try to convince her that we were ready to run a presidential candidate. And she was like, hell no, we're not. We don't have the infrastructure for that. And the whole board was like, we don't have the infrastructure to launch and run a candidate. So she was actually looking out for Dr. West at that point.
Right. I think
he had not talked to him yet, but she was, but that is who he wanted. He wanted a Dr. West and, get this, Jimmy Dore ticket with Jimmy Dore running as VP.
Yeah, no, I believe that. And you know, for what it's worth, West has, you know, listened to people. He made a change. He's going to run in the Green Party primary, and I think it's a better chance. There was a poll that somebody shared that, you know, put a third party option at like 25% at an early poll like this, just any third party option. And we know that a lot of people are ready for that. Now, we know the realistic hills that we'll have to climb. There's, you know, only limited ballot access. There's a lot of things that, you know, the Greens are still going to have to overcome, but it's at least a viable, realistic option as opposed to a non-existent party and that's attached to a very problematic individual, right? No, I mean, that's all there is to it. So now if we look at what West has been saying since he announced his entrance into the Green Party primary, we can legitimately scrutinize him based on those things, you know, and I think that's a fair thing to do from this point. There's still people that have concerns about him reaching out to certain, you know, like Ron DeSantis and justifying that kind of a relationship. You know, Renee talked a lot on the Black Power media about, you know, just advocating for that type of testing. She's opposed to it, you know, and I suppose if you're that involved in certain issues, then you're going to have legitimate criticisms of, you know, a candidate. But I think for the most part, I'm willing now to give him a much more objective hearing than I was if he stayed attached to that party. And
he's still attached to it, Johnny.
Well, yes, he says that it's. Well, you speak. What do you?
So
think?
I want you to talk me through the decision to run in the first place, the timing of that, and then the decision to run with MPP, the Movement for a People's Party.
Well, I can start with the latter, my dear sister, that, I mean, I'll always have a deep sense of gratitude to the People's Party, Brother Nick reaching out to me and asking for me to run on the People's Party. I just had little sense that the challenge would be such that it could be a distraction from focusing on the people and the suffering. So that as much as I have that deep gratitude, I've been in conversation with a number of folk in the Green Party.
Okay, so just go pause it there. Apologize for jumping in there. New technology boots just goes right to the video. So, Zaina, I know that that comment there really was a frustrating thing for you. Can you please elaborate?
Yeah, well, there were several in this interview, and I'll give Bree credit for, trying to push him on these issues. But there were a lot of concerns in this particular one for me. One of the ones that I had concern with was that he kept calling what happened at MPP all the dozens and dozens of people exploited, all the money wasted, all the things that they've gotten wrong, the 7 years of quote unquote organizing, the 6 purges that they've had, a distraction. Now, you know what? When I came forward, when Renee came forward, when other people, everyone kept telling us that we were a distraction on the left because we were raising concerns about this not a party exploiting people. And so to have him repeat that that was a distraction was really upsetting. And for him to claim that something like sexual assault or harassment is also a distraction is the same thing they told us about Biden and Tara. It's the same thing they told us about the people that came forward against Bill Clinton. It's the same thing they'd say in churches when pastors are found out to be diddling kids. It's the same thing they say in workplaces when women come forward about sexual harassment. This is part of the systemic issue. This is one of the reasons women don't come forward. It's one of the reasons that we're ignored. They say the same thing to mothers who come forward about domestic violence when they're trying to get a divorce from their husband that's beating the crap out of them. Well, the sanctity of marriage is more important. This is a distraction from your children. This is a distraction from other things that you could be doing. We keep hearing this line over and over again, and it hurts us. And 1 out of every 2 women have been assaulted. 1 out of every 3 women have filed complaints about sexual harassment in the workplace. 1 out of 10 men go through it. This is a systemic issue. So for him to act like these issues, the issues of racism, the issues of corruption, the issues of fraud at the People's Party is a distraction. No, dude. It is a part of the systemic issues that we're talking about. It's emblematic of it. Now he goes on, and you may play this in a minute, but in this interview, Bree specifically asks him if, since he claims he's on the board, which as far as I know, he never was, all those stars that they had up on their website, none of them ever came in and did anything ever. So as far as I know, he didn't. I mean, that could have changed when I was gone, but that wasn't the case when I was there. But he specifically asks if Nick would step down. She does. And his whole answers about the People's Party in this was just, I'm angry today. I'm really disappointed. This is a presidential candidate. And here's the thing. People's true self is tested when they're not the keynote speaker, when they're not getting their pictures taken when arrested, when they're not, having everyone praise them for showing up at a rally. It's when they have the opportunity to make a difference in a real world scenario that has an impact on them. Where is their salt then? Will they stand to principles then? Because I tell you what, as a president, he's going to be faced with those decisions behind closed doors every day. Sorry, I'm a little on fire today, and I love you, Johnny. That's directed toward you.
No, listen, I want it. No, you're absolutely right. Listen, as a matter of fact, my reply to that is I wanted to express why early on, because, okay, Renee and I have known each other for almost 3 years now. She's a member of our worker co-op. We've worked together. When people go online and call her a Dem operative and a this and a that, I'm there to defend her because I know it's complete bullshit. Zaina and I haven't known each other very long. It started basically with, when she came out about what happened with MPP. But I'm going to tell you why early on, first of all, I believed her anyway. But to people who want to make these, assumptions that, it's some kind of attack. If you noticed in all of her interviews about it early on, she would eventually always go back to the operational dysfunction of the party, and would even when people are asking her about the situation that happened with her, she would always turn the conversation about what she was more interested in was the party wasn't functioning right. We weren't following through with the things we were doing, which told me, I mean, if you were using this story as some sort of as some sort of, distraction, as people wanted to put it, accuse you of, then that would be all you talked about. That would be all the thing. You wouldn't go on about how you were bothered about the finances and about spending too much money and about not organizing and misrepresenting your volunteer base and all that other stuff. And I noticed that in almost all of her interviews. So you're absolutely right to point this out. And I have to admit, I did not watch this video yet. I've been watching as many of them as I can because I want to be informed. I don't want to go into this with just this emotional, I want to follow this guy, like everybody else is doing. Okay, great. He's got all these wonderful policies. We support most of them. We know who he supported before. We know a lot of his background and his advocacy, but now he wants to run for president. Now he deserves our 100% scrutiny. Bernie Sanders only met about 85% of my expectations, even though I supported him 100%. Oh, now, when I look back on Bernie Sanders and I look at how I've evolved today, that would only be about 70%. So I have a right. You have a right. Everybody has a right. Renee is scrutinizing him on this testing, the school testing thing. She has a right to do that. If she doesn't agree with that policy, she has the right to do that. And, I would never diminish, anything that you feel about this experience, because it's been hell. Look at the years people have spent just trying to tell the truth and to express what's happened, and to, if nothing else, not necessarily fix something, but help other people avoid being harmed as well. Right. And all of you guys have been bashed, mischaracterized, labeled as clowns, deeply unserious, shit libs, liberal ops. I mean, the list fucking goes on, and it's absolutely ridiculous because there's nothing to gain for any of us from taking this approach to try to educate people on exactly what's been happening with your personal experiences and with what, you've been able to find out in research, like finding out that he registered, or there was a registration filed with the FEC under the People's Party for him the day before he announced he was going to go, and the day before he announced he was going to switch to the Green Party, right? So what's up with that? That's a question that's worth, looking at.
100%. And that's what Renee brought up in her post, was the fact that it's from Virginia that it originated from. Well, I could tell you, Dr. West, from every interview that we've seen, he's originating from LA right now. So everything that he's doing, he's in Los Angeles. He's nowhere near freaking Virginia. So I don't think he's like Ron Paul flying from freaking LA to Virginia to go and drop something off.
Well,
especially the fact he wouldn't have a signature.
Weird is now, Zaina, you know more about this than I do, but I mean, I ran for Congress and I thought I did everything online.
Yeah,
well, there's a paper process. You could do either or. They let you do either or.
Well, but what I'm saying is, if he's far from the place, wouldn't it make more sense that he would file online and then he would have his home address or whatever?
It would make sense if he filed his own paperwork.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It would also make more sense if his signature was on it.
Too.
I mean, I probably helped 24 campaigns. Just do this process with the FEC, and I'm going to tell you what: we never, ever, ever left the signature off.
I wrote. Somebody asked me about this, and I wrote back, and I was like, listen, my 12-year-old knows that if there's a space for a signature, you don't turn anything in without the signature on it. That's why there's a space for a signature. So this to me is all like, it's all nonsense and creating confusion, which I gotta say, considering how many times people accuse me of just trying to distract and cause confusion, it's amazing to me the amount of crap that that like is allowed to like just float by, like, oh well, this isn't a big deal. Like, it drives me absolutely.
Why,
nuts.
when it's
And
in our own house, so to speak, okay, just assuming this is our ecosystem of politics, if you will, why, when it's something that's our own, then all of a sudden the excuses come out like, oh, just overlook that. But when we're looking,
you know what it is? It really is that people are so, and I hate to sound so like silly to be quoting like movie lines, but I like that line from the American president always stands out to me with this stuff. Like, people are so desperate. They're so desperate that they'll just do anything to get to that thing they want to do. So there's that line
Yeah.
where he's like, people are so thirsty in the desert that they'll drink the sand and think it's water, right? Like,
right.
people are so desperate to say that they're on board with this thing that's not in the duopoly that they're willing to accept anything as long as you say it's not in the duopoly. I keep telling people, not being in duopoly, but acting like a duopoly is actually not a better situation. And when I say things like, I have no interest, I'm not voting for the lesser evil, and I'm not voting for the lesser evil. And, you know, like, I have no interest in playing party to
Already
this
did
nonsense.
that, didn't we?
And I mean, seriously, like, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to participate in it. And this is not me saying anything about Dr. West in particular, because he doesn't even have a full-fledged campaign. I have no idea what his plans are. I don't, and you know, there's lines about what his issues are. I don't agree with him for some things, but I agree with him on a lot of things. But I don't know if these are going to be the things that he actually runs on. So I can't say what the situation is going to be. What I can say is, if I don't feel comfortable circling in that bubble when all is said and done, I just won't do it. Like, I just won't vote at the top of the ticket. And I'm perfectly comfortable doing that. But everybody has to do what makes them comfortable. And the same way I don't want people coming at me with that foolish, like, vote blue no matter who nonsense. I don't want anybody coming to me and saying, well, you got to vote for the person who's not in the duopoly. Like, why? Why do I have to do that? Like, I don't have to do anything. If I find that the campaign is in line with the things that I find are most important to me and to, you know, the things that I feel like most need to get eyes and ears on, and it does indeed turn out that he is going to be the candidate for the Green Party,
taking out the garbage.
Right. And, you know,
sorry, I thought I was muted.
No, it's okay. It's going to help get help get them ballot access back in the state of New Jersey. Like, yeah, I'll go along with it. But it all depends on how this plays out. And I got to say, like, I'm right now, I'm not sold, but there's also nothing to sell me on. So, you know, we just have to wait and see. But 100%. I am going to jump off because I'm about to get into the mountains, and what I don't want to do is drop off in the middle of a sentence.
Well, and we don't want you to drop off the mountain. So you take care. Thanks for joining us, Renee. And we will chat again soon.
All right. Take
care,
everybody.
Renee.
Bye.
We'll talk
Bye.
later.
Love you, sis.
All right. So that was awesome. I mean, she's driving and she takes the time to jump in to have the conversation. And I really appreciate that. I mean, I'm her sixth show in the last 2 days. Like, she's done some amazing things. And yeah, my computer just bumped and booted, and that's fun. Anyway,
well, to her point, you know, like, one of the first things that I do now is, and I've done this ever since Bernie is I submit a volunteer form to any candidate that I'm willing to support, right? And if they answer me, then I get to talk to somebody from the campaign. I get to question them and say, you know, well, what's going on with the campaign? What are your, you know, decisions for this? If I have questions about certain policies or whatever, at least I know I'm able to get in contact with the campaign. And if I decide I actually want to support them, then I have that vehicle where I know my voice is going to be heard, and I'm not just some anonymous, you know, volunteer, right? And so the first thing I did when he announced and shared his website was I signed up for his volunteer list, and all I got was the auto response. I asked about it in another thread. I said, anybody heard back? We know that there's nothing set up for the campaign. Between Zaina and I, we've had some discussions. I think she would agree. What the hell are you doing? You don't announce a candidacy without having some basic infrastructure. I mean, either her or I would think would suggest, first of all, doing your paperwork and filing. You don't have to, but you certainly should, and legitimize your fundraising apparatus along with your website before you make this major announcement, right? Now, if you're doing an exploratory committee, there's an entirely different designation in the FEC to file that. And to
yeah,
say,
and Johnny and I both talked about this. Like, you don't just, like, you start with your paperwork. So that's, you don't have to file until you get $5,000, but you can go ahead and file your committee before you take up your first donation. So that was odd. And then at first I noticed, and this was an argument that I had at MPP, I told them, I said, we cannot put that it's not tax deductible, because it is, because we're a political organization. Well, we also had this argument. They were arguing with me. Rod was trying to tell me that all political campaigns are tax deductible. I was like, no, I'm sorry, 527s and political campaign contributions and many 504 contributions are not tax deductible. That's mostly for 501c3s.
Right.
And they argued that with me. And I was like, dudes, I know this. Go look it up. So I shared links to the FEC and everything. And then I see it again and I'm thinking, that's not a mistake. They literally, you know, this was something I was back and forth with them on. But they did fix that. But it was so odd to me that the filings weren't already in the FEC. But you do that so that people can go and have confidence in their donations, knowing you already filed with the FEC.
Exactly, because people like us will check, right? Now, the other part is having, I mean, people can argue this is strategy, but I'm an operations specialist, and that ties into, you know, campaigning, because all campaigns are basically short businesses, right? They're short little marketing experiments, and that's really, you know, branding exercises. So from an operational perspective, the very first thing you would want to do upon your announcement, where you're expecting to get all this influx of money coming in and what volunteers, is that you have your volunteer onboarding process set up, that it's not just some form that's going to go to a spreadsheet and people are going to get to it later at some date. You know, you have a team that's specifically dedicated to onboarding volunteers immediately and finding out, and through that finding staff members as well, right? Saying, oh, well, are you interested in maybe taking on this field organizing role? We'll be paying this much or whatever. But that has to be in place right away when you make your announcement, because if not, you're missing the boat on a huge opportunity for fundraising.
But you know, Johnny, we can kind of forgive it. I mean, I can forgive a shoddy non-establishment candidate launch. You know what I mean? I've seen many and came back and corrected, but you know, for me, he has some really great policy points, and I know that he's done real activism work, but I keep coming back to you can say something, just like the video ADC had up earlier. Bree literally asked him, she said, you know, Nick Brana, you're on the board of MPP, which, you know, okay, I don't know. I'd already explained that.
You have to distinguish, because advisory board members have nothing to do with day-to-day.
That didn't even exist. It wasn't a thing. I tried to make it a thing, and Nick didn't want it a thing because he didn't want anyone other than himself influencing anything. Anyone with influence other than
members are basically there to give credibility to the organization and to show outsiders that if there are any questions, that the group has these people to turn to for guidance. That's really all an advisory.
Yeah, that means that the advisory board should be
shareholders, but in something like this advisory board, like a nonprofit advisory board members are typically met. Like in an MMT organization, you might get Stephanie Kelton or Fadl Kaboub as advisory board members. They don't take part in the day-to-day operation, but they're there to give credibility in case you have any questions about MMT policies or something like that, right?
Yes, they're supposed to be. These were mostly just celebrities, and that's not to downplay any of them.
No,
they were not. Yeah, but they were not
credibility, things like that. Yeah, but they're not real day-to-day operational roles. So when you say board member, it's not like executive board member or the director of communications or, you know, the director of outreach or whatever. Those are board members.
I'm trying to explain. At the People's Party, they were nothing. We did not even go to them on advice for policy positions.
Yeah.
They were nothing. They were just celebrities on a website in order to get people interested. The couple times that we did try to go to them, Nick, didn't listen to anything they had to say. I am explaining this because he just put those people out there to give legitimacy to MPP, but didn't lean on them for anything, which, let's be honest, is common place for like political organizations, like endorsements and stuff like that. Most of the time it's just rubber stamp, it's nothing else, there's no involvement. That's part of the problem with politics. But the fact is, Cornel West had nothing to do with us, so he didn't really know any of our problems. We tried to reach out to him and tell him before. Apparently I found out people had sent him emails and stuff. He ignored them. That's fine. He has a lot of, I can't say that that's nefarious, because he probably gets a lot of emails. He probably has a lot of people that reach out to him for a lot of different things. But I will say, now he knows, and his answer to Nick stepping down is that's just on MPP. So there's no accountability. And for me, that might seem small. It might seem like I'm being petty. I should put myself and everyone else at MPP. I'm almost done. Up on a cross in order to bear witness to something greater, so that we can take care of these big, massive problems that the working people face. Well, I've got news for everybody. We are working people. We are the people that have already been marginalized, hurt by an establishment. And if we can't even hold accountability for the fucking basics that he can actually hold accountability for right now, that's a red flag to me. Why is it? And another thing is, not only is it a red flag, it's politically goofy. It's politically goofy because the reason that it's a politically a bad move is that most people already don't like the People's Party. So why do you keep running this middle ground with them? Do you still think that they're popular? Because I got news for you, they're not. Do you think that they still have an infrastructure that would support you? No. But the reason he keeps coming back to is just because Nick asked him to run.
That and I think the Jim Dore relationship and everything else, there's and Nina, she was there. He keeps going back to that she was there at the founding, whatever. And,
Nina ain't got nothing to do with this. Nina doesn't like Nick, and Nina's already called out the People's Party a bunch of times.
No, I agree, but and Ryan Knight, he left early on. He I guess he found it wasn't aligned with him. So I'm not making excuses. I'm trying to understand along with you. Okay, I think it's possibly just the way this brother and sister approach that he has, and he doesn't ever want to say negative things about people. And from our perspective, we like to call things what they are. And I don't know, it's probably some kind of loyalty thing. And I agree with you.
Well, he's friends with about 30 people sitting up there in Congress right now. Is he going to hold his friend, Joe Manchin, accountable? Right. Is he going to hold his friends that are going to pass laws that are horrible to the people?
Brothers and sisters. Remember,
brothers and sisters. But he's also said that some of them, he dropped names of some people that's passed some horrible legislation just this week in an interview, saying that they're his friends. Yeah. Is he going to hold them accountable when it comes time? Because there have been interviews in the past, time and again, where he hasn't. So that's a question for me. Oh, we lost ADC.
No, he's still here. He's just having issues with his video. So yeah, I was trying to come in from the cell phone. Yeah, it doesn't work. So no, I'm still here. I'm listening. People can't hear me, or can't see me. You can hear me fine. So that's the big one. But yeah, you guys are making the valid points. And in that video, the only thing I wanted to share was the fact that I know I think Savage Joy is going to release some of it tonight. But the point that Dr. West made was the fact that Bree was pushing him to look at how he could do a Democratic run. And then when he gets blocked, like every other candidate's been blocked, then they move him to running as an independent, but using that process of running as a Dem and being part of the primaries. And he was like, no, this is what I want. And then she kept going, well, is your backup plan MPP? And he eventually said, MPP is in my rearview mirror. So as much as we take it with a grain of salt because he said a lot of things, but that was one of the things that he was very much adamant about is and it pains me that he won't come out and say that the behavior that you experienced was absolute shit. And the fact that the party itself is poisoned by the Brannas. And with the Brannas anywhere near that party, it's poison and we shouldn't be near it. I don't know why he's not saying it. Because the fact,
or why he won't say that he's completely done. He'll use the words in the rearview mirror, but he said on that same show too. He said that People's Party will be involved, just not at the center of it.
Yeah, I mean, we all know
it's
that Brandon's
unclear. It shouldn't be wishy-washy. It's political speak, so we don't have any answers. We're here trying to read the cards like it's tarot, you know.
We're just hoping, because the rest of that interview, and like Johnny was saying off air, he's doing so and we've been in our chat group, we've been talking about it. He's looking better and better and more comfortable in that position. If we can get past the his history of being wishy-washy, of I'm going to do this and then I'm supporting Brother Joe, there's some serious we say good bones in a house. He's got some serious good bones as a candidate.
I think what Renee was talking about earlier on her post Green announcement, return to Black Power Media with Coco and what's his name, Dr. Bash,
Ball.
Is that his name?
Dr. Ball.
Well, they were talking about the fact that there needs to be, like, you know, if this candidacy is going to be something of real true growth, even if you look at the possibility that it may not win because it's a third party run, but it has a potential of really possibly being much bigger, that it has to be based on groundwork. This can't be an online campaign. And we know the Green Party has its struggles with groundwork. And I was going to point this out as it comes. I want people to understand my approach toward this when it comes to the Green Party, because I've had an extensive experience with the Green Party since 2016. I campaigned for Jill Stein. I voted for her and Jamu. And I was part of the state CC, the coordinating committee, and tried to help start a seedling. I even considered running for Congress as Green, but by that time, it was apparent that they had no interest in growing outside of the Twin Cities. Okay, that's where they function. And outside of there, except for Winona, which is over by the river and has a small group, a small chapter, and there's indigenous influence over there for water rights and things like that. They have a policy to jump behind that is, you know, in line with Greens. We tried in Rochester, where the Mayo Clinic is, and I, at 45 years old, was the youngest person that we could get together in a room. Everybody else was in their 60s and above, and they were using, you know, they didn't want to hear strategies for recruitment of new people, and they didn't want to change ideas like branding, you know, their logos the same, things like just simple little things that affect the mind in a way. And I realized that they're very conservative when it comes to their own policies. Like, they're not willing to evolve on things that as a society evolves. And I got very frustrated with them. And the final nail in the coffin was when I was talking to a state leader about my run for Congress. And I said, you know, what do you think? Do you think that there's a chance that a Green can win in this district? And the guy said straight up, no, I don't think so. But you could, you know, hopefully you could get to 5% and you could help the party out.
See, they limit themselves with that a lot. I've heard them say that, and they limit themselves. Yeah.
I wasn't interested. So I registered as an independent because I, at the time, wasn't interested in going through what Bernie went through. The only reason I ended up becoming a Democrat was because the 20 people that were on my campaign, former Bernie supporters and et al., voted. My campaign was run democratically. I practice what I fucking preach. So in my committee, it was run democratically. And when we went to the People's Summit, and I got a lot of positive feedback, I had a lot of I find cameras and mics and, you know, stick my face in them, and had a few interviews. And, you know, people said, you know, Johnny, if you really, really think you're going to have a shot, we got to do the Dem primary, whatever, because of the political climate here. It's very party centric. It's very, you know, purple. And I get that because we have a plurality system. Now, whatever, I ran, you know, had to basically, it went exactly the way why I wanted to run independent. However, if I would have gone independent and stuck through, the Dem would have lost, which he did anyway, and they would have blamed it on me. At least at this rate, I, you know, dropped out of the Dem primary and they weren't able to blame it on me. He lost all on his own. And since then, of course, I've supported Greens and I've helped Greens and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But I'm still frustrated with the growth here in Minnesota. It's just next to nil. So when people come in my face, if you look on the Secretary of State website, Minnesota Green Party, or the Green Party, is not even a minor party in Minnesota. They lost their minor party status. Okay. And so when people tell me, oh, support the Green, I'm like, I don't live in the cities. Yeah. There ain't nobody on my ballot running Green, or, you know, they're not even, I don't even know if they're going to be on my ballot. Now, aside from that, and this kind of goes in line with what Zaina was saying about her issue, even though it was much, much more severe. And I don't mean to make light of it for this, but I have a personal issue with the Greens, as they blocked me on Twitter because I had a policy issue with them. And I started arguing with somebody else, not even the account, the Green Party account. It was somebody else that commented, and it was over the UBI. And all I said was, this is why the Green Party can't grow, because they won't evolve on issues they've been educated on. And it was about Warren Mosler talking to some people from the national, you know, I saw a video of him educating them on the job guarantee. And I'm a staunch advocate for it over the UBI, which is political clickbait. And I just made an initial comment. They put out this big thing, you know, about UBI. And I said, I thought you guys had a meeting with Warren Mosler, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody hopped in and they started arguing with me. And then that comment came where I said, well, this is why they won't grow. And then that person kept bugging me a couple more times. And there was no cussing. There was no, you're an idiot. I basically was a smartass. I'm always a smartass. And I basically told him, well, obviously you don't know my side of the debate well enough to debate me, because you're misrepresenting the job guarantee. That's what he was doing, right? So, I mean, a little smartassy in my replies, but nothing directly other than that comment. And then I noticed they blocked me. The Green Party did. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I was like, are you fucking kidding? Do you know how much shit I have tagged the Democrats, the Republicans, the DNC, and they have never blocked me in all these years that I have talked really serious shit about them. Now, are you trying to tell me the Green Party is less inclusive online than the Democrats? It's a matter of principle to me, and it's a matter of operational they like somebody ain't doing their job right. No political party forward. Now, I don't care. I'm blocked by all kinds of people. I don't care if people block me. They have their right to do that. It's not about that. It's not a personal account. This is a party account that has wanting to get my vote. And if they want my vote, I want to see what the hell they're talking about. I want to see what they're doing, you know.
So we just got to interrupt you here. So we got Kamala Harris, who is not the we're just going to go with that.
I know.
Yeah, Camilla.
Yeah.
Camilla.
I mean.
Camila.
Yeah, I know
so
her.
Not Kamala.
Camila. Yes.
Camila, right.
So Camila, who is part of the Green Party, is saying that it's got to be investigated because there's several folks behind the Camila. Okay. See, look, I can't even do that.
No, I know. She mentioned this to me before.
Okay, so this is the whole thing. So I understand, because I'm blocked by the premier of our fucking province. So I understand what it's like to not be able to engage with someone. Okay, awesome. We're going to call her K, because that makes it easier for ADC. The point being is the fact that what we're seeing here, and I get frustrated as we'll just say I'm really frustrated when we're sitting here and we have people that we know are good people. We know they have really good intentions, but they get involved in the Twitter war. You're in the conversation. Suddenly, Zaina's tagged. Suddenly, Johnny, you're tagged. I'm tagged. Renee's tagged. Everyone's tagged in this bloody post. And then by the time the smoke clears, everyone's mad at us. But we didn't start the post. We were just tagged in this because we're the ones that speak out most of the time. Those are the people that are pissing me off, because those are the people that end up getting us blocked or us being looked at differently because of the fact that they jump in the conversation. And you were talking about this earlier, Johnny, that you're having a conversation with one person and two other people jump in. So that's the
well, I understand that, and I don't mean to cut you off on this, but this is a matter of like Camila said, is that there was that they weren't professionally running the show, right? And so somebody acted through emotion. They didn't take it and say, hey, you know, what should we do about this person? Because there's definitely reason for a brand account or a public account to block certain users, like, you know, crypto spam and bots that are, you know, or maybe there's an adversary that is continually coming on the account and being disruptive, being hateful, things like that. And then, but if it's a person and it's not just some random account, you would have a discussion about it among the team and say, hey, we need to monitor this, or, you know, moderate this, I should say. And, you know, we're going to block them. What are we going to do? Because they keep coming on and bothering people, right? Totally not the case in my case. So the point is that it shows a sense of unprofessionality on their part, that they need to get in line. And that's always been my critique, is that,
well, I can tell you what it is. There's something that's very, very prevalent in nonprofits, and it is called founder syndrome. And it's this thing that happens, and we see it a lot. And it's usually people that are older, so they have, and there's nothing wrong with older people volunteering. I think that's wonderful. They have more time on their plates to give, because other people are working or what have you, and oftentimes they're retired. There's also this propensity to not want to let other people in or to grow further than what they have control over. So they want to keep control. It's a very paternalistic,
it's a very hierarchical system.
Yeah, it's a very paternal instinct, and it is something that, you know, I was trained about as like a public relations person, trained on like admin for, you know, institutions and stuff, you know, nonprofit institutions. I learned about founder syndrome, and founder syndrome can often sometimes be around the person who founded it. I think we see a lot of that with the People's Party, for instance. It can be embroiled in narcissism once that person starts kind of getting a lot of media attention and things like that. Then they want to have like complete control. For other people, it's just paternalistic, and they want to, you know, they think they're safeguarding, but they're not allowing it to grow, because they're not allowing it to grow as they grow with volunteers and as they grow with engagement. And as more people come in and as people see issues, they're very defensive about it. And I think that we have seen some of that paternalistic view at the Green Party, as well as this view that they just assume they're not going to get any votes, so they don't even try to build a campaign. I saw that, and I was trying to advise on different like Green Party campaigns, and they didn't want to build an infrastructure. And I even saw them saying that it's, you know, it's unethical to fundraise. And I'm like, you guys, you got to fundraise. You know, you got to have, there's nothing wrong or unethical about paying for a staff doing the work. If there's people working 40 hours on your campaign, they should get a living wage. Why not? Yeah. That's not unethical. So those were some of the issues I had with them, because on the left, there is this thing where it's like, we don't pay, we all volunteer, which is great. The people volunteer, but also it's fine if people are paid to do work in civil justice. We just have to balance it and make sure that it's not taken advantage of, and to make sure that it's not corrupt, you know?
Right.
But fair living wages
of people's labor is not a leftist ideology.
It's exploitation. And the biggest I guess the biggest problem I have with that, and I've had it with all nonprofits, is they want you to volunteer, and that's great until they can find a celebrity or an influencer that they can connect to. Then they pay that piece of crap up the wazoo for their brand. If their brand they make boatloads of money. Yeah, the charity will make like 10% of what's being raised, but that celebrity or that influencer or that major name corporation, whatever the case may be, they're making the money. So that's when it gets to that philanthropy for profit crap. And that's what a lot of these organizations are guilty of, because the only way we can grow is if we connect to these bigger names or these bigger platforms. Well, you connect, we just talk about, it was brought up on how many different channels. Coco brought it up on the aftermath of the Cornel West interview on BPM, of a certain group that we won't mention because we're not here to shit on other podcasters, but that's a guilt by association piece of utilizing the clout for cashing in on people that are bigger platformed to come on your show, and then using those clips and using that as come to, oh, we're the person that comes to. So,
but can I tell you guys the secret? Go ahead, ADC, but I'll tell you the
go
secret.
ahead. You go ahead. I'm just going to ramble on. So you be the person.
Catch the wind where it.
Yeah, exactly. Stop the wind before it takes off.
The secret is that what really brings people in are the issues. And if you organize around people and the issues, just like unions, you know, when they're organizing for workers' rights, when you center it on people and not on celebrities or a hero, then, you know, what's the old quote about that? You know, heroes are fallible, but ideas will stand the test of time. So if you are organizing around an individual, we are continuing to do that. And I think we're looking for the next Bernie. Right? Yeah. We're looking for that next flash pan, but that is only flash pan. And I'm not saying that Cornel West doesn't also have some good, strong bones when it comes to policy, because on that he does. But I also don't just look at what people say. I look at what people do.
Yeah.
But we are always looking for that hero, whether it was AOC back in the day, you know, it's Bernie, it's Nina Turner. Nina's all right, whatever. But we're always looking for that hero. We're looking for like almost like an authoritarian kind of bent to it. But you organizing around the people means making the people the face of your campaign. And West has not done that yet.
No,
I haven't seen him he's made himself the face on all these interviews and stuff, but I haven't seen him go on and bring activists on with him. I haven't seen him bring on struggling people with him. I haven't seen him bring on those people to his campaign. And in a launch, I understand you want to get name recognition out there, but where is it built around people? Because Bernie was actually really good at that.
Yeah.
On a lot of the times that he would come out, he would bring people on with him. I don't know if you remember that. No name people he would bring on, and he would bring to his events and stuff.
Well, so that's how we got Chris Smalls. I mean, it was
that's how he got so popular too.
Yeah, it was Bernie bringing him on. Yeah. And then you had AOC trying to, it's not my district sort of crap. Anyway, sorry, cheap shot. But yeah, that was, I mean, look at where Chris Smalls is now. That, I mean, some people are calling him out for what he's doing, but he's walking the walk in regards of working with unions. He's still, it's not like he's just going to, yes, he's gone and using his celebrity. I was very disappointed that he went and wore that fancy jacket to see Biden. Like, that's that hero worship.
It's hard, dude. It's hard. If you're an organizer and you get invited to see the president of the United States, regardless of who it is, you're going to the White House. It's hard to turn an opportunity like that down, because it can lead you to more of what you're doing, even if it is somebody like that, even if it is Trump. You know, I mean, as disgusting as these people are, it's the position or the proximity that you may be looking at as something like that. Now, how you handle it. Like if you go out and you're slobbering all over the event, and oh my God, look at the picture, he's my buddy, then, if you're there shaking hands or whatever, accepting an award or whatever it may be, I'm not going to fault somebody for that. And to the point of like with West, okay, we're far away from the primaries. and we're farther away from November. And I mean, I don't know what anybody wants me to do for the guy. I live in a little 2,500 population, rural town in southeastern Minnesota. I'm an hour and a half away from where all the action happens. The Green Party only exists in the cities. So I don't know what anybody wants me to do for him. I've offered, my only offering with any candidates really is because most of the stuff that I can help with can be done online anyway. Right. So, I mean, other than knocking on doors in my little Trumpian town, not going to happen. I wouldn't even knock on doors here for myself to run for dog catcher. So, but I can help with infrastructural things on the back end. I can help with setting up the onboarding process for volunteers. I'm really keen on membership rights and responsibilities, right? So overseeing, making sure that volunteers, when I get asked, most of what I do with organizations is that specifically helping write the bylaws and creating.
Bye, Camila.
Bye.
Bye, Kay. Thanks for joining us. And then we'll have you on camera for part 2.
But actually helping implement these what they call horizontal governance, right? Self-governance, where there is no authoritarian structure at all. That the people who are helping coordinate aspects of the mission take on servant leadership roles. And
I feel like Johnny's making a sales pitch.
Well, it's what I'm saying is these are the types of things you got to walk the walk. So you have all these leftist organizations that are creating these authoritarian structures in their own organizations and saying they're leftist, and they're not doing it. They're not.
I have a 6-packet. I have a 6-packet instructional on that that I used in my volunteering. I helped more than 17 organizations help their structure. But it's not a pyramid. It's what's called a flatarchy. Holarchy failed over and over and over and over and over again. But a flatarchy means that you put like people at the top that are not actually at the top. It's like a team effort, but you do have someone lead. Yeah, you have someone lead a project. They would be, you could call them whatever the hell you want. You could call them a director. You could call them a coordinator. You could do whatever.
Coordinator is what we've picked because it's more connotates what it does, whereas
it's also gender neutral.
And it allows you to step into a space that justifies what you're talking about, that you're just coordinating other people's efforts to
also it would allow women to get a word in edgewise, which in a lot of cases, in a lot of institutions and organizations, people of color, women, we'll come with our expertise, we'll come with our experience, we'll come with working at things for years and years and years and years, but not be able to, have that. So I feel like if you have that kind of flatarchy where you do pick people to be leaders, it's not all voted in. It's based on merit, based on application. That's true equity. People put in applications. They're qualified for the position that they're doing. They're not just voted on in a popularity contest. The reason that so many holarchies failed is because they would have votes for the leadership completely without doing like a vetting process before that. So you would have the person be like kind of the coordinator, but they don't know jack shit about that topic, whether it be comms or tech or whatever. But then you almost always have a black woman doing all the goddamn work every fucking time. I saw that over and over and over again. Because when people vote, they still vote white. Sorry, I'm just being honest.
I can hear Renee cheering from wherever she is, from the mountains, from that comment. Absolutely.
Well, Renee's been my friend for 7 years, and we've been talking about this since. So, we've had like 1,000 discussions on it.
It's that thing of it's punishing people that work hard, or punishing people that are value workers, because
it happens in almost every industry. The nursing assistants, the ones that I worked in a nursing home twice, and we wipe the butts. We help them get dressed. We take them to get their food. We make the least amount of money and get treated the worst.
That's right.
Just almost any industry, the people who work the hardest at the bottom. I was a recovery coach for a couple of years before the pandemic, right, at the treatment center. And we were basically like nursing assistants, but in a recovery setting, right?
Yeah.
And we, had to help the guys get to places. We would take them to doctor's appointments. We would take them to outside meetings, made sure they got down to the cafeteria and ate, because they always had to be supervised, and, basically waited on them, ministered to them. And, it was by far the most demanding position in the whole place, because we were hands-on with the residents, and we didn't make the most amount of money, and we did, it's the same thing. And a lot of times we were shorthanded. So we should have had 3 guys every, it was in my site anyway, men's facility, should have had 3 guys every shift. And a lot of times we'd have 2. So they were saving money, but they didn't give us any extra money for picking up the slack and doing the extra work. Right.
Of course.
So they weren't paying somebody $15 an hour. They could have given each of us $5 more an hour when we picked up the slack, and then still save $5 an hour by not paying the third person. So yeah, they constantly do this shit. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, Cornel West and the Green Party, I'm willing to sit and see where things pan out. I'm not making any, I was totally against the MPP thing. So that was off of my radar. I was like, if that's the way he's going to run it, I can guarantee you right now, they won't be on my ballot. So I won't even worry about it. If he runs and gets the nomination for the Green Party and he's on my ballot, I'll certainly vote for him. I don't see myself working through the Green Party to help his campaign. I will help his campaign directly if I so choose. If it gets to the point where I hear back from his campaign and they're like, this is the direction we want to go. We need quality people to help us organize and get this ground game going. You seem like a smart guy. You know what you're doing, and they get other people not that Zaina would, want to, but people like her that know this kind of stuff and have done it. And that's what they're getting serious about. And they're willing, because I don't want to I don't give politicians money. First of all, I don't care. I don't have it. I'm not giving it. I am the charity. So I'm not giving it to any politician. So that's off of the record. I mean, that's off of the table there.
Yeah.
As far as, helping him other than social media, hey, sharing something, there's nothing for me to do. I'm not knocking on doors in my local town, like I said, for the Green Party or for him, unless I'm actually connected to the campaign. And if people out there don't like it, they can kiss my ass. I want to know that the campaign that I'm working toward has some kind of direct connection to me, my voice, and is possibly using some of my ideas. I had a handful of really good ideas for Bernie, and I couldn't get through to the national campaign to implement them because of the gatekeepers that you're talking about. And they were great. There was dozens and dozens, of the Facebook pages, California for Bernie, Minnesota for Bernie, and none of them were connected to the campaign. I wanted to, hey, I'll be the person that gets them all connected to the campaign so that they all have immediate information. They all know that the message that they're sharing is true, and they can officially on Facebook be associated with the campaign so they have validity and credibility on Facebook. And then any of the ones who don't, we ask them to merge. Anyway, I had this whole huge plan to help consolidate his effort, and I couldn't fucking get through to anybody. And it was a great on the ground plan, right?
I think that I think centralized and decentralized coupling together is always good. I also think with Dr. West, just like with any other presidential candidate, one loop that we get into is, like I said, with this hero complex that we have. This really wanting to believe something because our lives are shit. Most of us are out of work. We don't have health care. We don't have anything. We also don't want more of the same. So I think analyzing, just keeping his feet to the fire on the issues, just like with any presidential candidate, because he has had a history of waffling so much. There are some issues he's been consistent on, but we've seen him waffle, like saying to vote Biden and he voted, he supported Clinton, and he has been a part of he is not an anti-establishment candidate, even though he's running outside of the establishment on a third party ticket, which is very refreshing. He has been part of the establishment for 25 years. He's been putting out a counter message with the establishment, but he hasn't been on mainstream media. He has showed up. Chuck Modi showed him showing up at, several different smaller events. If he's asked, he comes, kind of like Susan Sarandon, which is awesome. I give him credit for that. But at the same time, the man has been and is part of the establishment. He went to Harvard. He was part of the Harvard institutions. He did push back at it, but he has been a part of the oppressive institutions as well, and part of the establishment. Even though I am glad he brought a counter narrative while being a part of that, he is still a part of that. So I think keeping an eye on the messaging, realizing that, yeah, he's another celebrity that's part of the establishment, but let's see what this guy does, is an important one. But people acting like he's completely outside of the beltway, when you've got people 15 years ago like Sister Soul just saying he's not, and you've got Black activists that have been yelling that for 10 years, we need to listen to the organizers too, that have been blowing the whistles on this for a long time. And then we have to hold any candidate's feet to the fire, any candidate on the issues. Just yesterday, everyone's talking about this comment he made about, and I don't put too much weight in like one off comment, but he said something about RFK Jr. smoking the crack pipe. Now,
he said it today too.
On Palestine, and I agree with him on Palestine. He's absolutely right about Palestine, and we need to support the Palestinians. And he's right that RFK Jr. is weak on this, but RFK Jr. is an addict. So those kinds of choices of words
it's the
needs
ableist
to be
piece.
Thought of. Yeah,
that's where I struggle. Like I look at this and I'm going, because someone posted like the meme of Bleeding Gums Murphy and I'm going, I want to create merchandise of Cornel West as the Bleeding Gums Murphy character. So President Jazzman, but I can't do it with the line, "Get off the crack pipe," because I'm a firm believer of safe consumption sites. And that would be me looking at the addicts that require the narcotics to live and looking down on them because they're addicted. That's a very ableist looking way of doing it. The second point is, and no one is covering this. I saw it in the was it LA Times or the one of the U.S. newspapers, very small thing. He quit Harvard on June 6th. So based on racism and discrimination, we all know that he was like that whole thing about tenure when he came about the speaking out on behalf of the Palestinian people. But the fact that he quit on the 6th of June, and then what was it, the 10th that he announced he was
it was on the 5th that he announced. So
on the 5th. So he announced, then quit, or he quit prior or whatever, because I mean, news is not new anymore, it's all old. So like looking at the dates, but a lot of people aren't talking about that he actually quit being a professor at Harvard, like his professor.
Or it may have been the 7th. I'd have to double check the date, but it was definitely a few days before that.
It was so around that. So
I think maybe it was the 6th. So I think
there's another red flag there of, okay, I don't have a job anymore. Now I can be president.
I mean, honestly, it could have been a part of the decision.
100%.
If let's say it took a week for this decision to play out. It wasn't just the next day. I was being hard to Barlow when I said that earlier. But let's say it took a week for this to pan out, where after he finally got bugged enough to say, okay, I'll do it. I'll talk to my wife. And, and she said no, but he went ahead and did it anyway, according to him. Maybe within that time period, he decided, yes, I'm going to do it, and then quit his job. I mean, if it was a conflict of interest, then I guess I would see that. Why else would, I mean, what, I don't know that it is a conflict of interest, is it? I mean, people have their, I don't know, like having politicians come from
legally until you actually are running that. you have to quit your job. Like here it's when the writ is dropped. So like as soon as the election is called, then any person who's a registered candidate cannot work in Canada. You can't work or be a business owner or whatever during your candidacy. You have to step away from.
In the
Canada.
United States, you can still work
Well,
and
Trump
do
did
that, but
his entire 4 years, so he didn't give up anything. Anyway,
but even with Trump being an outlier, it's typical. Most politicians have regular day jobs, especially small state politicians and stuff. They have their own businesses, state jobs, things like that, or regular, jobs, and they run for office. So
maybe he just wanted to focus on the campaign. I mean, that could be.
I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
So,
I don't want to pick apart every damn decision that he makes with an ulterior motive, because I think that's the opposite of being objective, right?
100%.
And I want to be fair, and I want to give him credit for making the change and hearing, even though, as Zaina said, he's still not hearing all of it, and there's room for him maybe at some point. I mean,
well, I'm just tired of sexual assault and harassment and mistreatment of workers and those kinds of bad practices being secondary.
And just being pushed under the rug and being ignored and all that shit. Like,
because it's happened how many times? It happened to Lindsey Boylan, one of my friends. It happened to Tara Reid. It happened to 7 women when it came to Bill Clinton. It's happened to Roger Moore. Remember all of that with Roger Moore being a creeper. It's happened over
Clarence
and
Thomas.
over. Clarence
and now
Thomas.
we have new allegations, new charges against Bill Cosby that came out today.
Oh,
and that freaking
nothing like. I actually was on another podcast this weekend. It was actually one that was fun, and it was like it was the Bastard Brackets or something, and they take different subjects and do a bracket like a March Madness sort of thing,
like a sports bracket.
Yeah, sports bracket, whatever. So we did it on TV Dads, and I made sure that Bill Cosby got wiped out in the first round. Because I said, you can't be a piece of shit in real life and do all that horrible garbage. And it pains me because I loved the Cosby Show.
I was a lot of people were raised on
by it.
Show. And
in our age, he was the dad figure.
Exactly.
So I pushed him to whatever. And then it got to the point where we were talking about Murray Goldberg. And we all know that Jeff had the same shit with the Goldbergs, where he had allegations of sexual misconduct, why he had to leave the Goldberg show. So I got him through the first round. They brought it up, and I'm going, okay, so look, I have to have integrity here. Even though he was my pick, I'm not picking him. I'm picking whoever he's facing, because I can't say, Bill Cosby's a rapist and a pedophile and a sexual monster, and this guy who's doing similar actions, not to the extreme of Cosby, because my God, what the horrors that fucker did is just beyond. And we had a couple of black guys on there, and they're going, well, but you have to separate the artist from the art. I'm going, fuck, dude, I paid money to see him. I saw Bill Cosby in concert. I had Bill Cosby records. I had no idea when he's talking about the Spanish Fly or what the fuck he was doing in real life. So I couldn't. So like it pains me. And
it's like R. Kelly's music was tied to his issues.
Oh, God.
One of the things is I've noticed that these issues, even MPP did this. These issues of assault, violence, sexual harassment, domestic violence are now being considered, quote unquote, identity politics.
Yeah.
And that in the political sphere in general, these types of abuses and oftentimes corruption, and MPP is very, had a lot of problems with corruption too, are often overlooked in the name of the greater good. You've got the churches, you've got, like I was mentioning before, but also these issues are being sidelined, even though, like I had said, 1 out of every 2 women have faced sexual assault. 1 out of every 2 women. That means that this is a massive systemic issue. 1 out of 3 have dealt with domestic violence. 1 out of every 7 men have dealt with domestic violence. 1 out of every 10 have dealt with sexual abuse. So these are prolific problems that we are saying, no, it's just the economy. Money will solve it. Money is not going to solve these problems. You cannot use economic reductionism to talk about this and also racism, even though we can say how there can be economic things that can be done to help solve those problems. We also have to look at the cultural aspects, and we can't undermine. I remember 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, domestic violence, sexual assault, abuse, this was before the Me Too movement, was on the forefront. And we passed the Violence Against Women's Act. We passed legislation. We built housing where people could live. Right now, single mothers, for instance, many of them leaving domestic violence situations, 85% of single mothers are in poverty. 85%. 32% of single mothers are homeless. And we don't have housing to accommodate them anymore. Food stamps have been gutted. We used to be able to get housing, food stamps, credit card, not credit cards. We used to be able to get housing, food stamps,
Cash
potentially childcare, cash assistance, jobs. There were programs. All those programs have been taken away.
Yeah.
But it existed before. They're all gone thanks to Bill Clinton, and then thanks to the Congresses that we've had since, and then thanks to Barack Obama. They're all gone. Even George Bush safeguarded some of those programs, believe it or not, with all the fucking horrible things he did. His wife made sure he safeguarded those things, which is weird, but that's just a fact. But now on the left, especially, those things are considered identity politics. They're not important. War is the most important thing, but yes, it is. But if somebody's getting raped by their husband, or they're getting beaten every day, or they don't have a place for them and their children to live, those are issues that are important still.
Yeah.
And what it boils down to is rich people that aren't living through that and don't have to deal with it don't give a shit.
100%.
If they have a safety net to leave those relationships, it's easy for them to leave those jobs or those relationships. So they see it as a big fucking nothing burger. So yes, it is a class issue, but all the people that are ignoring it, all the pundits that are ignoring it, and I won't name them, they all have money. Yeah. They can walk away from situations.
But some on the left that don't have money, that seem to be aspiring
to have money,
climb the rails of the rungs of capitalism, perpetuate this class reductionist bullshit. And we just had this happen where for the last year plus, a certain group of YouTubers have been going around saying, we got to stop all this culture war bullshit. Stop talking about racism and bigotry and all this other stuff. It's all got to be class solidarity. Go talk to your mega neighbors and all this bullshit, right? And then they interview a famous elder of theirs, right? A black leader by the name of Jamu Baraka. And they ask him, by misframing their fucking question. And I'm seriously thinking of doing my own reaction video because I'm very pissed off, and this was the cutting line for me.
That was a good one.
When all three of them fucking sat there and blamed this on their white allies, their white friends, and their white viewers, and they asked the fucking question under that, what would you say to white viewers who say that putting racism on the back burner for class solidarity is the right move? And the first fucking thing out of his mouth, well, I'd say it's not a very serious position.
Well, liberals also have it skewed. You do have social justice warriors that have it skewed and think that everyone in red states is a bunch of bigots, so they should all be written off, even though 70% of the seats are unchallenged in our states. We're not a bunch of bigots. That is a tiny fringe of like 7% of the country that they are trying to placate to, because the mainstream media and rich people, they're the bigots, but they like to blame us poor working Appalachians. Right? They like to blame us poor rednecks and say that we're the bigots, we're ignorant, and we're uneducated. No, I'm sorry. It is the wine moms in Bethesda that are the fucking bigots. It's not the Appalachian mama in the trailer park. So that's the mythology.
See, I can't say what I always say. The white privileged woman is the enemy of the state. And people they want to cancel me for that comment. I'm going, but you have to understand, like, it goes back to Mrs. America and the suffragette movement and all that stuff. It was the white women that blocked any
Mainstream
sort of
media just said this the other day. I don't remember what one. They said exactly that. They said, do you know who lost it or who won this or whatever? It was white middle-class women in the suburbs. Like they identified that just the other day. I don't remember what it was talking about.
Well,
but it
I
had
do
to
know
do-
Jonathan Haidt actually did a survey of who the sock puppets were. Like, they did a deep dive into who the sock puppets were on, like, Twitter and these other places that spew up as the most hate. It's not the single, like, hard on his luck dude in his mom's basement drinking the Mountain Dew. It was wine moms in suburbia, like, saying some of the most horrendous, outrageous, racist stuff or extremist stuff on both sides of the aisle, left and right.
Right.
It's that. And they statistically proved it. And I was like, that's really funny, but it tracks.
Well, and when you and see, here's the point. If you're on the left and you want to attack capitalism and you want to dismantle and you recognize that the tools capitalism uses are racism, bigotry, xenophobia, and other multitude of other things. But those are tools of capitalism to divide people so the oligarchy can maintain their power structure. If you recognize that, then the people you need to be fucking talking to are the people who are exhibiting racist, bigoted, and xenophobic behavior, not the people who are pointing out those people. Yeah. Stop fucking coming out at us and saying, oh, you're a purist, because I say, listen, I got a problem with somebody calling me this or calling me an idiot or calling me a fucking moron or I don't want to work with that person either. I don't care what color they are or where they come from. But if they come at me sideways, how are you going to sit at a table with them? So the same thing applies if they look at you and don't think you should even fucking exist. Yeah. How are you going to sit at a table and fucking, oh, we're going to get Medicare for all. And then after that, I won't get it because you don't think I should. That's the next
But the important lesson is it's not the coal miner. There are some. I'm not saying that bigotry doesn't exist in those circles, but most of the time we have to work with people from all over the place, from all different places, and we have to learn how to work, and we have to be able to do that. We're not as segregated. What is segregated, though, is like sprawling farms or, suburbia. But there is this mythology about the quote unquote red states that's just not true. Just based on how people voted in one presidential election. It's stupid. It's misinformed. It's people that don't go out there and talk to tens of thousands of voters. It's people that don't take the time. It's people that don't listen. It's people that want to pour shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And redneck, even the term redneck came from coal miners organizing where I'm from in Appalachia. They wore the red bandanas in order to signal that they were in solidarity. And you know what? That was the real rainbow. And that was a rainbow coalition, not the real one. Hampton built one too, but a rainbow coalition. And I will tell you the reason that they made the term redneck a disparaging term was to insult poor people that were organizing as workers. Because it had become a unifying symbol across the country. So the powers that be, the mainstream, the oligarchy literally turned that term on its head and started using it as an insult for workers organizing. Like, we're ignorant, and that's why we're organizing. We're uneducated. We're toothless. And they started coming to Appalachia and taking pictures of our poverty to try to show how stupid we were.
Well, the 2023 version of that is woke.
Well, and I want to point out, too, that I'm not saying by any means that, you can make the claim that if you vote for Trump, you're a racist. But, that's not true. People, yes, indirectly, if you want to look at policies, then if you vote for Biden, you're a racist, right? Yep. That's just it.
Well, everyone who voted this last cycle, if they voted for Trump or Biden, are all racist. If you use that, because Biden actually did just as much, if not more, racist policy.
Exactly. And so taking that out and saying, look, I'm not saying all mega people are racist. What I'm saying is the people who identify as fucking racist or bigots or xenophobes themselves, those people, like those are the problem. I don't have a problem talking with your neighbors. Now, what I'll tell you is, in my experience, don't keep fucking telling me something unless you're going to prove concept. Give me proof of concept. Don't go on your YouTube channel and tell every fucking buddy else that you live in MAGA country in Missouri, in Kansas fucking City, okay? And tell everybody how you have to, and then not invite any of your neighbors on your show ever for a whole fucking, the whole time of the show. I've never seen one fucking MAGA neighbor. I've seen other YouTubers that claim to be on the right that he'll platform because they have a bigger platform to him than, like, you know, Jackson Hinkle. But where are the fucking neighbors that you keep saying you're aligning with? Why? Because
most people don't even consider themselves left or right. That's
listen, I'm going to tell you a story about my little town here. My son and I got a couple side jobs for helping people. He ate at a restaurant, and one of the waitresses there, well, she lived in our town, and, you know, nicest lady, you know, of course, Christian evangelicals, you know, but nice enough lady, needed some work done, you know, husband, 2 kids, all that good jazz. And we're working on their house, and we notice a Trump sign, you know, off in the corner. So we kind of know they're more than, like, you know, obviously they're Trump voters, whatever. And we get to talking at one point about, you know, the problems. And the way the door into them is, yeah, Biden's horrible, right? They love that. You're right in the door with them. You know, I'm standing in her kitchen, and we happen to spark a conversation about things. I'm like, yeah, you know, like, I understand why people voted for Trump. You know, you kind of play it off, right? You're not going at him like, are you a fucking idiot? You know, I don't start out like that. You say, yeah, I get it. You know, and look what Biden, he's a horrible politician. I can't see why anybody voted for him. And you share your honest feelings, right? And that's a door in. Now, the whole time, mind you, in the background in the living room, the TV is on Fox News. It's always unlocked on Fox News. And when she's home, she's on her phone, you know, playing a game or whatever, and Fox News is on. The other lady, she had the same thing. Fox News was on the whole time I was there hanging pictures, and she had a Trumpy bear sitting in a chair next to her bed. And I'm hanging Christ pictures.
Oh, God.
I'm hanging Christ pictures next to Trump pictures. You understand? This is... And she's well-to-do. The idea that Trump people are all working class people is bullshit. They are maybe working upper middle class people. They got boats, they got homes, they got fucking RVs.
There's been clear research on this. The average Trump voter made more than $100K per year, and
these people were
their two-person income was around $220. So that's the facts. And if you look at the voter maps, it was mostly in suburbia. And there were a lot of voters in California, for instance, in the neighborhoods where all the money was.
So here's the point. Once you start getting to a certain part in the conversation with them, right? So we've talked about, oh yeah, the Democrats are losing their way. Then the comments start coming out. Well, you know, I think all lives matter. Right. And you're like, yeah, well, you know, and maybe you kind of share with them, well, you know why they say Black Lives Matter? It's because they've been oppressed for so many years in this country, you know, and all lives can't really matter until Black Lives Matter. Right. You know, you just try to ease them into it, and you share it with them. And I don't think that. And then they go on about, you know, Biden's a communist. And then you see, it's just once you get to a certain point in the
I'm going to tell you, Johnny, that person is the fringe. You were talking to the fringe.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm surrounded by the fringe is what I'm telling you. So when people say, oh, go talk to him, almost everybody, when you get to a certain point of the conversation, they're talking the talking points of, say, typical right-wingality that you can't really pull them out of, because they think the problem is all these radical left-wing, you know, AOCs and you know, and Nancy Pelosi, like they put them all together.
When it comes to blue MAGA, when it comes to MAGA, when it comes to some left-wing extremism, there is people that get into their ideas and they're unwilling to look beyond them, and they just get everything off the news. They don't dig any deeper. And I have a little bit of empathy for that, because I'm not saying I have empathy for racists. Please don't mistake what I'm saying at all. But I have empathy for people getting into these loops where they can't see beyond it because we're busy working all the damn time.
Yeah.
And because people don't understand the social media algorithm, so they think everything that they're hearing is what's accurate and right.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes there are things, and I can't say what they are, that I have concerns about on the left because of my own experiences that I can't speak about because right now, in the heat of the moment, the way things are, I would be ostracized because no one would
You're
be willing
welcome
to
to
listen to me.
speak those off camera, in private message me, whatever. There's no judgment.
Oh yeah.
Anyone,
Oh, I know. There's plenty of people that are great, but I understand why people feel that way too. So on some subjects, you have to breach them, understanding where people are coming from, but then also know that there are just real bigots that exist. Like there are
Well, and my
real
point
hateful,
is,
horrible
too,
people too at the same time. So it's just a dance and really getting to know who people are, I think.
yeah,
I
and
think
my
Johnny's
point is too is why is there so much emphasis by some people on the left? And Coco said this earlier, right? You saw when she said, "Why are we chasing after?" And I think Renee reiterated, "Why are we chasing after people that we have an ideological difference with?" When there's a bunch of people that aren't even in the process that are predisposed to our ideology already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why? There's 3%, 5%. I mean, they don't call them the 3%ers for nothing. There's, like you said, 7% of those people that they're trying to get because they think they're politically active and they want to argue with them. They want to sit there and argue and convince them that they can join our side so we can have Medicare for all and we can have, good stuff too. And we can get rid of these wars. If we just come together in the wars, maybe they'll do Medicare for all. Maybe they'll do this. Maybe they'll do that. Instead of going after people who are predisposed to wanting these things.
That's what I've been saying for 7 years. I've said that if we
Or-
focus on the fringe minority, we're distracting ourselves from getting the majority organized.
Or the fact is, and from when we're not going to mention names or whatever, but certain people of privilege, certain people with multiple followers of tens of thousands of followers, will bring on these people because, like Zaina said, it's the number game, right? So you bring them on and you don't want to argue with them. You pretend you want to argue with them. You want to be a debate bro. And then you realize, hey, we can both make money off this bullshit. So come on our show. We'll go on your show and we can fight it out. And then we can make fucking shirts and coffee mugs and sell them.
Clips and
everything back and forth. I mean, so that's the most disappointing piece of Dr. West.
And those same motherfuckers go around telling us, people who are already on the ground working in organizations, bringing about a post-capitalist architecture, that we need to get offline. Motherfuckers. I ain't going to settle for that shit. There's going to be something that's going to pop me off. I'm going to do a fucking video and I'm going to lay it all out because I'm so sick, because I believed in and tried to help. Right? Some of these people, I've made myself available to help some of these people legitimize their fucking their organization, and they wouldn't do it, and they've even gone to the opposite direction.
This platform is open for you, Johnny. I've told you that before.
I know.
The person that you didn't want or person you offered wasn't ready to go, whenever you're ready to go, we can do this, and it doesn't have to.
No. It wasn't about my show. This was me helping them with my business fucking skills. Like, I wasn't getting anything out of it. All I was going to do was use my, like say, hey, I can help you register your company, get you a website up so you can legitimize these things that you're doing, right? Like, you're doing this drive where you're getting money and you're doing it through fucking Cash App. Why don't we just do some paperwork and then you can legitimize this and then you can actually grow it? Who knows? It could actually grow. We can get a website built for it. You can put your donation stuff right there on the website. And all you got to do is share to Twitter and say, hey, I need more money for such and such. Go to the website. You don't have to go through GoFundMe. You don't have to. That's what I was offering fucking these guys.
Hey, guys.
They blew me off.
Zaina's going to jump off, I'm guessing.
Feeling a little, I'm starting to feel a little tired, and I am going to go rest, but I really appreciate you guys
we appreciate you coming on.
Sis.
As always, you're welcome here anytime, Zaina. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your brilliance, as always.
Oh, I don't know about brilliance, but thank you.
Oh, yeah, you got some knowledge.
All right, take care, and have a great night.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
All right.
All right, so Johnny, we can sit and talk for hours. We're at the 90 minute mark.
Close it up too.
Yeah, we're gonna shut it down soon. But
I just wanted to say like I respect Zaina's ability so much. We've talked for a little while, and I recognize like she knows her shit. And she and I come at things from the same kind of perspective, like this operational, like we're immediately dissecting, okay, so how is this working? And what did they do this? Did they do that? And to be honest, it comes like, I'm not scrutinizing the campaign from a negative perspective. I'm asking, why is this not being attended to? If you want it to be successful, then you need to attend to these things. And I'm not saying, oh, forget about it because this is happening. People need to stop being so goddamn emotional on fucking Twitter all the time. Just because you point something out doesn't mean that the sky is falling and that, would you rather vote for a Democrat? Fucking dumb ass responses. Shut the fuck up. I'll block these people, right? And like I said, there's a difference between blocking somebody from your personal account and using a brand account or a political organization that wants your vote. So I'm not a hypocrite. I have no problem blocking people who insult me. I expect you, if I'm being a smartass and I'm bugging you and you get sick of it, I expect you to block me. Ryan Grimm, David Sirota. I mean, there's a handful of people that have blocked me because I pushed back. I mean, honestly, both of those were really like moderate, like pushback. Like, why do you keep telling us that the Democratic Party is the?
Well, Sirota doesn't have he's
very sensitive when he obviously
very sensitive. I mean, like I even posted.
But I'm not complaining about him blocking me. Like it's no big deal. He's not asking for my vote.
He angers me because the fact that he has that brilliant podcast on Audible where he tells the story of how Obama screwed everyone over, and this is why we're in the financial ruins that we are, is because Barack Obama. And so I'm going, so you're inside Bernie's camp at the time, you're doing this podcast, I'm telling you all this stuff, but then you're going and bootlicking for the Democrats. So that's why I'm going to call you out. I'm going, dude, you had a chance.
Like hearing that.
I know, and I'm going, don't look up. Absolutely, we're living it. We're living. Don't look up. But if you keep being the Democratic dinglehoffer,
my point. What pissed me off was him, Michael Moore, Marianne Williamson, and I can't think there was one more person in this podcast together saying that the only way forward is through the Democratic Party. Blah, 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 blah. No. And that was, I think it was after that he posted something, and I kind of commented and said, so if this is what you believe, then why is it that, you go on, shilling for the Democratic Party or sheepdogging or, something along those lines, because that's basically what it is. And at that point, he blocked me. Well, guess what? He has a right, doesn't piss me off. And, I do appreciate most of his content because it is knowledgeable. I don't appreciate what we're talking about now, that they're saying, oh, the Democratic Party is shit, but we have to take it over. They're Dem enter. A lot of people are Dem exit, and those two.
And that was the point where I was getting uncomfortable for Dr. West, was when Brianna kept going you know what? If you went through the Democrats and did this way, I'm going. You talk about how you vote third party. You talk about all these things, but because you still need that connection for your core show with the other freaking ass clown that you're all paid by the Democratic supporters, then you still have, even on your own program that's supposed to be something that is your individual thoughts, you're pushing the Democratic process. And I'm going, it doesn't work
after, or
tomorrow. And I mean, it's like,
I haven't had a chance today.
And she grills him a little bit. His answers are great. Like I said, I get frustrated people going off on him because he talks about music. I'm going, you know what? In such the shitty cesspool that we live in, why can't we talk about the classic music? Why can't we talk about the brilliance of Motown and jazz and bring that back? I'd rather talk about that than talk about Biden bullshit stories about getting ice cream.
Let me tell you what the problem is with that, okay? And I don't have a problem with it personally either. I think, but from a messaging standpoint, it's going to start wearing thin on regular voters who just don't want to hear that, and they're going to start caricaturing him not taking him serious.
See,
and he does have to lean back on
live
that
it down. So
he also needs to lean back on the long philosophical academic answers, right?
So my solution for that. So number one, the best part about it is the fact that we've got till summer of next year where before they're going to do the actual vote. So he talked about it. He's like, I've got confidence that I can win, but I've got to, like, it's a democratic process. I have to be on the ballot and I have to be voted by the party to be the candidate. So I'm going, so when people say, oh, he thinks he's just the king and he's going to be,
he doesn't.
And he doesn't. No. He's got it. He says it's going to be summer of
that. I give him credit.
Of
he
next
said,
year.
Let me make it clear. He said it on Black Power Now. He said, let me make it clear. I'm part of the Green Party primary process. I'm not the nominee yet, and we'll see how that plays out. So he mentioned that, and so look, I'm not as harsh on him as others in our
but
group.
We also don't have the trauma that
right. Well, what I'm saying is
those words would cause. I mean, and that's why I wanted to have Zane on tonight, regardless of how she was feeling. It was very, very nice to have her, to give her that platform, because she had a lot of pent up frustration on watching this, and everyone jumping. It is totally justifiable. Like, you can't just brush it off as it's just a inconvenience. Well,
think about how frustrating it is over the last, what has it been, 2 years since it happened or so, that she's been treated the way she has, and it's been brushed off, dismissed, called a distraction, all these things, and not validated by, let's say, a majority of the people
that are in our.
Like, we validate her, her friends validate her, but she's not being validated.
The majority
by the broader majority of the leftist ecosystem that should be standing up for her and saying, hey, this is bullshit. That dude and that party is bullshit, and he needs to be investigated and called out, because this shouldn't be done, and she never received that kind of response. It was people attacking her because she had the gall. At first, she didn't even come out.
No,
she didn't even come out. She was staying silent. If she was really trying to do something, she would have been out there. Hey, everybody, look at me. Nick did this to me. It took her how many weeks to even come out to Jordan?
Because it was the confirmation based on the observation of Paula Jean in that whole incident, the initial incident that was witnessed. And I mean, she was thrown in such a horrible place of having to respond and to get shit on every time because people believe the bullshit that this person, and I use person as very it actually challenges me to say person, because this piece of shit and their dad and the rest of these fucking bootlicking
motherfuckers, what they are.
Yes, toxic motherfuckers, absolutely. They shouldn't have party. They shouldn't have any sort of status. They should be in jail.
In the community whatsoever. Fucking relegated to service work. That's what people like that.
So that's where the frustration comes in.
Here's what you do.
When we're talking about the other group that we're not mentioning, fuck, it'll get back to them because it always does.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't care either. They already fucking blocked me on most things. But it's that group that fucking platformed them, got pissed off at me when I called them out, when I fucking provided the receipts of these assholes are flying from here to here, from fucking the States to London for some other bullshit fucking made up war against whatever. And you're justifying, oh, well, there's only one or two Nazis. It wasn't that big of a deal.
You know what they do, though? Do you know what they do? They're very tricky. I haven't watched a lot of their shit for quite a while now. Do you know what they do is they platform something and then show just enough doubt to have plausible deniability later.
100%. And that's the whole thing. So
they did it with the Wage Against the War Machine. They were like, check this out. So-and-so went and covered it, and they covered it, but I don't really know. I mean, people, like, I don't really know about it. Why? Because they didn't get invited. They didn't get invited to speak. That's exactly fucking why.
Well,
and then later on, when everybody came out against them, they were like, yeah, see, we weren't boosting it or nothing. We told you there was probably something wrong with it, right? So then they have plausible deniability later, because then that way they can play both sides of the fence and see where the clicks are coming from. I fucking know their game, dude. I'm advertising, marketing, all that bullshit. I recognize it. I can see people's like their show format. I can see a pattern in their show format. Certain YouTubers have a certain show format. I use that as an example to other people. I say, hey, here's how you should do. They're doing it right. Use this format.
I could be successful doing it that way, but then that would mean I'm a capitalist piece of shit. And that's the difference between me and the rest of them.
When I say format, I mean kind of like how they run the show. Like 20 minutes on this,
I understand take a break, but
do this 20 minutes, and then they take a break. Like there's a certain format to what they do. And sometimes, and those are good, but what they tend to get talked about, like on certain channels, what they talk about. And then I saw another channel going off on somebody defending the other channel. It's all this fucking high school bullshit. Well, how come you called so-and-so this and this? And they invite somebody on to grill them about why they don't like somebody else that's in the fucking YouTube ecosystem. And that's all they're doing. That's all they're over there fucking doing, everybody. They're fucking creating their shows. They're not out on the streets doing shit. There might be one person doing a fucking thing. And I'll tell you what, going to an event and covering it with a live stream is not activism. No. It's not organizing. It's not the work of organizing.
It's anti-activism, because any true activist, because you're putting the group that you're covering in danger. So if you're covering, say, a Pride event and you're live streaming it as, I want this as part of my show content.
Let's talk about these fucking these marathon panels that they get people to come to and put all this content on for fucking 12 hours a day on their channel for a certain specific purpose that they name and brand, and then nothing comes of it afterwards. Just like the Rage thing, right? They were supposed to be building a movement, yet they weren't part of the follow-up one. In the following month, there was a huge one with this big coalition. Why wasn't their name on there as a sponsor?
Oh, but they were still
part of a big anti-war movement.
But that coalition wasn't, because the fact that there's certain members of that coalition that were mean against the Rage Against the War Machine.
I don't care. We're supposed to put all that aside. Come on. We're supposed to give class solidarity to end the nuclear fucking threat. What are we doing? So that's why we know it was a fucking lie and a grift. Do you understand, people? Do you get it now? Well, we tell you that these fucking people are not sincere. They're not genuine. And then we have the proof afterwards, the actions. You look at their actions. Don't listen to their fucking words. And I'm sick of it. I'm seriously sick of the people running cover for these assholes who are only worried about building their audience, not building a movement.
No.
There's nothing fucking revolutionary about that. You can suck my fucking left nut. I'm so sick of you going around the internet calling everybody else fucking clowns, unserious, fucking shitlibs, fucking liberal operatives, every fucking thing you can think about. They go around calling everybody and saying, why don't you get off Twitter, when that's their whole fucking existence? The motherfuckers exist 100% online. And the rest of us are working behind the fucking scenes trying to bring about the society that they say they fucking want, while all they're doing is sitting around judging everybody.
100%.
Fuck them. And we need more. There's a whole series of fucking online information out there that is not part of this high school click bullshit. There's a whole series of them. Black Power Media, get your shit going. Case Study QB has been inviting me on. I'm not saying that because he's been inviting me on, but he just does like a political junkie thing where
he does great work, fantastic work. Unfortunately, he does some work for them, but he does fantastic fucking work.
Well, he tries to get along with everybody. I'm going to say Case tries to get along with everybody. He don't want to get involved in nothing. He's got his family, and he wants to just inform people. You know, he shares all those mainstream media clips because most people are so anti-mainstream media, they won't even tune in. And it's important. I tune into them, not really like Fox and those. Like I'll tune on MSNBC because that's what people around here watch, just to get the gist of what mainstream is talking about today, right?
Right.
Like usually I'll watch the Today Show because it's right after my morning news, right? And that'll tell you what the mainstream media is trying to push off to people, the narrative. You should know that. It sometimes it's just an event news, but then they twist it and they have those those, what are we talking about? Those plug words. They're not plug words, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
buzzwords,
yeah,
where
buzzwords.
China aggressively goes after a boat in the China Sea, right? And they use that buzzword language. And so seeing and knowing that they're reporting on that, trying to scare the public, means that they're pushing for fucking war with China. You should be aware of that. You should know that your neighbors are seeing this shit and that they're going to be supporting the idea that China is trying to threaten our sovereignty and we need to go to war with them. There's no other choice. Your neighbors are going to be conditioned into thinking that. And if you don't know why, because you're not tuned into mainstream media. I mean, I've been reporting on this since back in May or March of last year when Chuck Todd was on there running fucking war games and scenarios with some fucking analysis with China. Like, what would it look like? You motherfuckers, you're trying to prep people for this right now, right here. A year ago, they fucking were doing it. And they're pushing.
So we're going to go and see if we can get kicked off YouTube now. Bring up the Ukraine, because that seems to be the key word or the buzzword that gets you kicked off of YouTube. So we'll see how long we talk here. So I don't know if you saw the article, I shared it there. So anyone who's watching, you're paying attention to the Ukraine, and we keep sending money to the Ukraine, and everyone in our countries are starving. I'm in Canada. We had our fucking prime minister there shaking hands with Nazis. $500,000 or $500 million promise again for more money for the Ukraine. If you aren't aware, in May of this year, BlackRock visited the Ukraine, and they set up a Ukrainian fund. So basically what is happening is money that is coming in from our war machine. So just to give people a quick Cole's notes of this one, when we send money to the Ukraine or any of these other war nations, we're sending them money that's based on sales of weapons to our weapon manufacturers. So the weapon manufacturers get the money, they're getting the money. The weapons, by the time the weapons are created, they're not going to fucking need the weapons. They're never going to get the weapons. And if they get the weapons, then they'll sell them on the black market and make more money. So needless to say, right now in the Ukraine, Zelensky is meeting with BlackRock. And if you're not aware of BlackRock, go back to one of my earlier episodes, episode 10 or 11, where I did the BlackRock, Vanguard, and who are the two core companies that own the world. So BlackRock is one of those companies that owns the world. And so they started this financial fund in the Ukraine with the finance minister and all this bullshit. So what they're doing is taking the money and subsidizing it for Ukrainians, but it's not for the Ukrainian people. Like the Ukrainian people that we're supposed to be helping, the ones
like Halliburton in Iraq. It's like Halliburton that it basically did everything. The any kind of rebuilding, for the military,
it was all under the military. But this one's even worse because the fact is that
it's going to be the rebuilding process,
and owning of the Ukrainian things. And they said
and
starting with infrastructure and including minerals and agriculture. And if you're not aware,
it just basically bought Ukraine. Just say that
100%
basically bought Ukraine. Wait, they bought the dip.
They bought it, and BlackRock is going to now own the Ukraine. And you can quote me this one. The Ukraine will be the next Israel of Europe.
I already said this. Quote you, man. Go back. What I said it.
We probably said it together.
Last year. I said this.
So this is the plan. The plan
Iron Dome is coming Ukraine's way.
And Taiwan is next. That's why the push for Taiwan is they want to have Taiwan to be the Israel of.
And why Taiwan?
East. Why Taiwan? Because it gives that whole perception of
there's
not
one
being
key
part of China.
factor. There's one key resource. Very, very important resource.
Well, they have the computer chips, the processing chips.
Semiconductors. The Taiwan Semiconductor Company. Because I actually looked into it when I, looked
Pelosi's and her husband went when she went on her trip that the Chinese government was not happy with. She went and visited it, and then that's shortly after Biden announced the fund for is it Asus? Trying to think of who the major chip manufacturers in the States. But anyway, that they're starting a fund to ensure that North American made computer processing chips are focused on, so we don't have to rely on the ones in Taiwan. Because Pelosi went and looked at the factory, went on a factory tour, supposed to be representing the U.S. in a defensive manner or safety manner, and went on a tour of the fucking computer chip factory in China. We covered this on one of our shows many months ago. So when that happened, that was released and all this stuff, and that was just after her worthless piece of shit husband. Well, he might have got some karma, but anyway, he was insider trading on those microchips on that company. So. And then they passed that law through Congress that no congressperson can do any insider trading or have or their family can have any sort of stock connections.
It didn't get signed into a bill,
but it looked good.
It looked good through the House. It only got passed through the House.
It looked good in the media.
You don't know. Oh yeah, you're Canadian. You don't know. No, they only passed that through the House, I think. And it never made it through the Senate, which a bill has to make it through both chambers of Congress.
We've got same thing. We've got
Parliament. And then it gets signed by the president in order to be a bill, and he can veto it. And then the only way to override a veto is through a 2/3 vote by the House. So if the House has enough votes, they can do that. And they have
COVID relief. Is when last time they did the 2/3 vote was to wipe out the COVID relief that Trump had implemented before leaving office, that Biden didn't want to pay any.
In any case, though, I mean, I think they're, we're seeing this development happen with China, and what I tell people is, China and Russia are not going to launch nuclear weapons at us. No, we are going to be the ones that launch at them after they start whooping our ass, because China ain't going to fuck around. China has had it. I tell you right now, from everything I've looked at, all of the materials, the people that I've seen, like John Meichenheimer, you know who I'm talking about, the guy who talks about the Ukraine and why we pushed them. And he's right. He's like, look, guys, if you don't start looking at accepting a multipolar, world, then we're going to get devastated, because people are rejecting Western, liberal democracy. Is that what he calls it?
Sure. They're rejecting the Western imperialism.
Hegemony. And so he's warning this, and he's saying that, Ukraine's going to get flattened. Russia doesn't care. They're just going to flatten. And so, I mean, I've watched a lot of these things, and he's very knowledgeable on China. And the sentiment is China ain't fucking taking it no more. They've spent the last 70 years rebuilding their country into this, massively, exemplary country in many ways. And in many ways, they got issues. There's authoritarian influence. They, have discrimination influences with others. But in a lot of ways, with a population that huge, they've lifted a lot of people up out of poverty, where there was, rural areas that had no civilization.
Now they've got full infrastructure coming into the major centers.
The whole 9 yards. So the people of the country have a lot to look at, to be proud of, even though they accept a certain amount of authoritarianism as a means of self-control. That's what they're told, is like, look, you can't have access to this kind of social media because it's bad for you. We've looked at it and it's bad for you. And to be honest with you, the freedom that we experience in the United States points to all those things. So maybe there's something to them, because self-governance can be done through a centralized government, right?
Yeah.
Meaning that if the people believe that that certain restrictions on information or things like that are necessary for a better society, they may choose to do that. They may think something's not good for children or something like that. I'm not saying that you have to think that's right. I'm just saying that societies may choose to do that. We have authoritarianism here, so you can't compare the two and say we're any better than them.
No,
right?
We're
a state. We're a surveillance
benevolent
state.
dictatorship is how I like to put it.
I don't necessarily, I think that the social credit thing is dangerous, and it creates this issue. They think of it as we're holding people accountable to their own, so that they don't fall off. And if you just look at human behavior, maybe there's something to that philosophically, psychologically. So, I mean, when we look at a post-capitalist society, how do you plan on governing it? And we're not going to get into that conversation, because that's what I do for basically my organizing, is I help people learn that. And it's multiple things. It's multiple visions that you could institute in a post-capitalist society, but there's still governance. It's not anarchy.
Exactly. Right? We can have that conversation in a full show, but this one we're going to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny, for joining us. Much appreciated. Like you said, you're always welcome. And we will chat again soon.
All right, man. See you in the chat, buddy.
Sounds good. Take care, Johnny. So that was our Talking Truth Thursday. I appreciate everyone for coming on. Thank you, Renee, Zaina, Johnny, people in the chat. Much appreciated. If you want to support the show, it is ko-fi.com/talkingtruth or coffee.com, whatever's the easiest way to go. Share the screen here quickly and let you see what we have here. And we have currently conservatives, but we will be launching the new design shortly. Proud to be everything conservatives hate. We're also going to be launching a proud to be everything capitalists hate. And you get those shirts there, proceeds going to the show, coffee mugs, all these different things. And we environmental friendly, those sort of things. And you can visit there. Like and subscribe across the board. If you have a topic you want us to cover, you want to be on the show, feel free to shoot us a message on Twitter at ADC Talking Truth or at ADC Truth, on TikTok, on Facebook, all those different things, or just shoot us an email, and that's in the comments. And we appreciate you for joining us, and thank you for talking truth with us, and we'll see you all again next time.